They told me Asia Wilson wasn't marketable, bro.
Do you practice this? Was this spur of the moment?
Is Juju Watkins better than Caitlin Clark? I feel like people have been saying that already.
I mean, there's the argument that she was the best point guard as a rookie last year.
I still think Arike is a better basketball player than Sabrina Ionescu is.
Napheesa Collier is unstoppable right now.
Maybe, just maybe, Napheesa Collier is breathing down her neck. Asia Wilson knows it too. Quick history lesson for you, Martin Sori, as I love to do every now and then on and off the show. Sabrina Ionescu joined some elite company in New York Liberty history. She's tied the longest streak for consecutive games with 25 points and 5 assists. It's 3. Do you know the other 2 players in Liberty history who had at least 3 games with 25 points and 5 assists?
Was Cappy one?
Cappy was one, yeah.
Becky Hammond?
No.
Who would be my other guess? Stewie,
yeah. Brianna Stewart and Cappy Pondexter. Cappy Pondexter mentioned last night on the broadcast as the Aces lose again.
But at least they didn't get beat down.
That's a good point. We did not get beat down.
At least it wasn't a beat down.
Now, when Asia went down with her wrist injury, I did.
That feels like a beat down. Morning, Bryce.
I surely assumed that the gloves were going to go that way. It was going to get nasty, but we hung in there for a bit, and then things fell apart as they do. Yeah. We will talk a little bit more about the Aces a little bit later on in the show. We're going to start with some news that broke earlier in the week. Actually, broke Monday night. DeWanna Bonner is returning to the Phoenix Mercury. She is signing with Phoenix for the remainder of the season. Lots of mixed reactions, it seems, at least from what I can tell on Twitter, on Threads or whatever. Most people genuinely excited, not just for DB. Obviously, we know rough start to the season for her in Indiana, but now she's in Phoenix with a chance to potentially win another championship back where it all started for her. I thought it was nice. Phoenix gave her a welcome graphic, gave her kids a welcome graphic as well. I thought that was a good touch. Yeah. Welcome back, Demi and Charlie, I believe are the kids' names. So that's nice. But Martin Sori's, you know me. We like to get into the nitty-gritty, and we like to talk about how things impact other things. So DeWanna Bonner, who you were high on about going to Indiana, right, now coming to Phoenix, how does DeWanna Bonner's presence impact positively or negatively Phoenix's chances to win a championship this year?
I think it only helps, man. I mean, I think it only helps. Familiarity with Phoenix, familiarity with her wife. They're obviously playing really good basketball right now. I don't think that she's coming in to what's funny is that I think that she can help this team the way that those of us who thought that she could work in Indiana would help the Fever, in that you can plug her to add some additional scoring, little defense, a little versatility. She can do some playmaking with the ball in her hands. This isn't like the Connecticut scenario of, a couple years ago where DB and Alyssa were playing together in Connecticut. That team, I just always thought was offensively challenged and limited. And they were such a defensive oriented team coached by Stephanie White. And I thought they, in their last couple years in Connecticut, I thought DeWanna, even though she was doing great scoring the ball and she looked really good, I thought she was too much of their primary scorer. In Phoenix, they have Satu Sabli, they have Kalia Copper, they have, their role players are probably one of the better stories of role players in the whole league. Sammy Whitcomb going for 36 the other day. Like, they kind of have everybody humming and in tune, some decent depth there. Phoenix is, looking better than a lot of us thought they might. With healthy Kalia, Satu, AT, we both felt like that was, a lot to work with. But we also thought there might be a drop off after their 3 best players, and they're showing that that's not the case. They're having other players really step up and play well. So, they're averaging 85 points a game. They're 13-6. Like, they're in a good spot where her as a veteran and as a champion and as just the familiarity, she doesn't have to come in and try to do too much or try to be too much. Funny enough, what's ironic for me, Marcus, is that the few games that DB did play in Indiana, including the game where they beat the Liberty, she wasn't playing great, but she started playing better, and she was helping Indiana win those games. what was upsetting and confusing for me was that I would see DB put forth great effort on defense with her length. She helped them get stops against the Liberty. She finished stops with rebounds. Like she started to get really aggressive defensively and showed her presence. But then she would secure that rebound, throw it, and then it was like she didn't even, I could see it in her body. She barely even wanted to get on run on offense. You know, we say run back on defense, not as a run back on offense, but she barely wanted to get into the front court for offense because it was like she knew the shot was going to go up before she even crossed half court. So it felt like she felt like her role was relegated more to like, oh, I just got to be a glue girl and play defense, and she never really looked that involved in the offense. So I that was the thing, is that I felt like if they maybe gave it more time, clearly she wasn't comfortable. And I mean, from the beginning, she, I think she put stock into going to Indiana, which is, supposed to be a title contender. I think she was trying to like fit in and trying to, and seeing if they would, embrace her. And I just, from the beginning, even the whole, I don't think it was Sports Illustrated, but someone did like the cover and the whole feature with like her, Caitlin, AB, and Kelsey Mitchell, and the four of them are sitting across, and they're like, they did some kind of feature with someone. I can't remember who did that. Maybe Slam.
It might have been Slam.
It might have been Slam. But even in there, it was like it almost felt forced, the whole thing of them trying to like embrace DB. I thought on the floor she could do those things to help them win games. And I thought low key, if you watch, she was kind of doing it. It's just she didn't look super involved on offense. So I think she can do those same things to help Phoenix, to just plug her and help them continue to win games. But they could still use some of her scoring, playmaking, on the ball, with the ball in her hands, even off the ball as a cutter and as a spacer. So I think it's going to work out fine. I don't think Phoenix is really going to miss a beat here.
I have some apprehensions. Like, I get it, right? DeWanna Bonner, she's a champion. She won a championship in Phoenix when she was there the first time, right?
With my sister, Cappy Pondexter.
Your sister, Cappy Pondexter. She's won a championship previously with this franchise. She is, I said this the other day when I was talking about it when the news broke on a different show. She is, like, off the top of my head, probably one of the 15-ish best players to ever play the game, somewhere around there.
I think she, they named the top 15 because
Cappy's, that's right. They did. I think she's in there.
She's in it. I think she is.
I think she's in there. And if she's not, I think she's in there. So there you go. But she adds a lot to this. She will add a lot to this team on both sides of the ball. I'm not denying the value. I just look at this Phoenix Mercury team and I think about the fact that there was a point in the season when the Mercury logged more rookies than anyone. Like, we're logging more rookie minutes than anyone else in the WNBA, and that was a big part of what made their start to the season so shocking. Is because, as we've talked about on the show, even with having DJ Treese on the show, it's like, yeah, you have Satu, you've got Ka, and you have Alyssa Thomas, and it seems like there's not a lot after that, but what they have after that has still been pretty productive. Sammy Wincombe goes off for 36. Lexi Held, who's out right now, she's been one of the better three-point shooters so far in the league, shooting percentage and just, volume-wise and all that good stuff. And I just worry that, unlike, let's say, Atlanta, which was another team that she had mentioned, I think that she wanted to go to, unlike a team like, even if she were to, in the off chance, come to Vegas, right? This is a team that she would start and it would be more intentional to like get her those touches and get her more involved in the offense. Not to say that if she went to Atlanta or Vegas, that wouldn't be the case, but if she goes to Atlanta, they already have Bree Jones, they already have Brittany Griner. Like, you're kind of reworking everything that they have already to kind of make her fit there. Vegas, you and I have talked about how much she needed the post help. I thought DeWanna Bonner would have done a lot for that as well. But again, you're already talking about an offense that is already struggling with 4 Olympians on the team. Adding a player like DeWanna Bonner would only exacerbate those struggles, probably because they don't even have the 4 Olympians on the roster working. I just worry that DeWanna Bonner's presence will kind of shake up the rotation a bit in a way that would be detrimental to the supporting cast. And not that that's like a massive issue, because DeWanna Bonner is great and Alyssa Thomas is great and Kalia Copper and Satu Sabali are really good players, and they all have, again, you're adding another player with championship experience, with playoff experience, who can play on both sides of the ball. Like, this is the epitome of who the Phoenix Mercury are as far as who their best players are. So I don't think it's going to be an issue as far as like putting a cap on how far they can go. I still think they can be one of the last 4 teams left. I still think if all goes well, they can make a run for the championship, as I've been saying all year. I just worry that the supporting cast around them might suffer a little bit with
Mm.
DeWanna Bonner being there. And in certain scenarios, I mean, what we know right now about the WNBA is that your bench matters and your rotational players matter, right? That's how the New York Liberty won a championship last season. And you look at, in my opinion, I would say all the teams in the WNBA right now, aside from the Valkyries, because the Valkyries are, for all intents and purposes, a team of rotational players. I mean, they've said that themselves. The Phoenix Mercury have the best rotational players outside of maybe the New York Liberty, who have kind of had to rely on them a little bit more because of injuries and so forth like that. So I just worry about the adjustment period and how long that's going to last. They are a top 4 seed in the league right now. I think they're 13-6 or 13-5 or something like that. So they're winning games. They're going to continue to win games. The first, I would say, maybe week or two, maybe even 3 after All-Star break, when they can really hit the ground running with this and hopefully everybody's back healthy, that's when I'll be paying a little bit more attention just to see exactly how she fits in. I mean, in a perfect world, she'll fit in as seamlessly into Phoenix as KD did into Golden State, and all I've just said will mean absolutely nothing. And I think that's very possible that this could be as seamless of a fit as KD was to Golden State, but it's just something I think about when I talk about like Phoenix, and they've I don't want to say relied so much, but they've gotten so much from their not best players that I worry that could suffer a bit with DeWanna Bonner being there.
Yeah, I mean, like, when you bring up KD, it's, I mean, DeWanna Bonner is not in her prime. She can still play, but this isn't prime, like, so she knows that, and I think part of that is what might have made it tough in Indiana, because I mean, look, she was averaging, over 15 a game in Connecticut like the year before. I mean, so she's not that far removed from being like a double-digit scorer. I don't think she went into Indiana thinking that she would be, the second option or the third option or one of the main scorers. I think she expected to be a little more involved in the offense, and they couldn't really figure that out. But I think it's more about her presence, her experience. To your point, I mean, I think already right away she becomes their best role player, and you obviously don't want to take away from what their role players have been doing really well thus far, but to add a role player of her caliber from a leadership standpoint and even just from her skill set standpoint, I think that works for them. Mainly if which I believe that she's not going into any situation thinking that she needs 15 shots, or I think she just wants to be involved.
Yeah.
And she seems to be the type of player that's glad to do. Like I said, when she didn't look too happy, but in those games with Indiana, when they beat the Liberty, when a couple games that they won with her, she was playing hard. She was a player out there doing what she needed to do, because she's still a competitor. She's still a winner. So even though she looked out of place, mainly on offense, on defense, she was battling. She was inside, bumping for rebounds. It's not like she was so detached that she wasn't playing hard. So I think at this point in her career, she knows how to play the balance of, okay, when do I need to kick up? She's playing with 3 other players who are better than her right now, who are better scorers than her. So I think in a way she's going to kind of fill in, kind of like Indiana, but I think she'll just feel that much more involved and included, and that'll help her have, a positive impact.
That's a fair point, and I can't get mad at that. I like I said, I do think when it's all said and done, once the adjustment period's over, if there is one at all, like the Phoenix Mercury will be clicking on all cylinders. I'm just interested to see how this all this adjusting starts.
Yeah, because I mean, they're playing well. They're playing so well, and that's kind of the risk you run with adding a player who is still really good. You don't want it to change too much because you're doing well.
Right.
What she does well that you feel like could add to something that you still need right now, you want to maximize that. So I don't think she has to do too much. But I tell you this a lot. When you have like a minimal role and you're a really good player, Jewel Lloyd, the aces, we'll talk about the ace in a little bit. When you're that good of a player in a minimal role, sometimes that can be challenging.
Yeah.
Just, the reps are lower, the opportunities are lower. So you have to be that much better and more efficient when you do have opportunities. But I just think her being in Phoenix and playing with her wife is gonna cover up a lot of those anything that might be uncomfortable or unfamiliar. I think that's gonna help both sides a lot.
Yeah, I mean, at speed of the Aces, it'd be different if she ended up in Vegas, where like you would only have to think it'd be a good thing because they've been struggling so much. Like you wouldn't,
and then that creates pressure. I mean,
there's no pressure for DeWanna Bonner in Phoenix, and we'll probably see her playing, I mean, she played good basketball anyway, but she gets to play a little bit more freely than probably what she was in Indiana. Speaking of the Aces, let's switch gears now. The Aces did fall to the New York Liberty last night, but more importantly than that, in my estimation, A'ja Wilson suffered a wrist injury in the second quarter. She did play a couple minutes after the injury and then exited to the locker room. Did not return the remainder of the game. And Becky Hammon announced at the end of the game that she'd be getting an MRI this morning. So there will be some news imminent regarding that injury as far as the severity of it. This will be the second time this season that A'ja Wilson will miss some amount of games. She missed a handful of games earlier in the season due to concussion protocol. The good news for the A'ja Wilson and the Aces is that All-Star Weekend is next weekend. And so at the very least, she won't be playing. There's no pressure, at least in this month, to get right back. The goal, of course, is to get her back as soon as possible for after All-Star Weekend to try to make a push and turn some stuff around. But with that, though, and it's been a constant topic of conversation over the course of the season with us on the show and off the show. And you kind of mentioned a piece of it, which is the Jewell Loyd aspect. But if you had to point to, and I don't think there's just one thing that you could point to, but if there was one thing that you could look at and say, this is the problem in Vegas, or this is attributing to the problem in Vegas, what are some things that you're looking at as to what's been going on with the Aces?
If I would say one thing, and I don't think it's one thing either, but I think the main thing for me watching them is A'ja touched on it. I think after the first or second game of the season, those girls do not want to play defense for some reason. Their defense is so bad, Marcus. I mean, and just as a very simple example of what I mean by bad defense, that Indiana game, even mostly in the first half of last night's game against New York, they had some they had some stretches where they started to play pretty good defense last night.
That is true.
You saw like they had some good stretches of
they strung some stops together.
Chelsea Gray, they strung some stops. You saw more of the pride kind of take over, right? But especially in the first half, and I think that was the third quarter, I think, when I saw their defense kind of get a little better. Maybe it was the second quarter. But, man, teams like the Liberty and Indiana that will go to a lot of two-man game, dribble handoff, short roll game. Yo, the first look, Marcus, teams are getting layups on the first action. Just a simple, dribble handoff, boom, two-man game, pick and roll, hit the short roll, hit the roller, layups. They give up layups. The backside second level defender just doesn't rotate over, whether it's Jewell Loyd, whether it's Nalissa Smith, who obviously just got there. But, man, their defense looks just uninspired. They look like they just don't want to play defense. And it sucks. And what's compounding it is the offense isn't great either. So, yeah, Bryce, that's exactly it. Like, the defense is bad. And the offense has looked bad. Marcus, they're under 80 points a game. They're averaging 79 points. They're barely scratching 80 points a game. So that, I mean, the offense is something to touch on, but I feel like the main thing I'm watching when I see them, I just see teams just scoring on them. The defense is just bad. And part of that to me is what we've talked about with front help in the front court for A'ja with another post player, who I've said, offensively, she could use another good hybrid post dual forward playmaker next to her to help with offense. But defensively, they need a defensive big in there as well to help her. Because as I've said to you, like, yeah, A'ja's, she's been the top defender. She's led the league in blocks. We love that she can do everything, but don't put that burden on her. Get another big in there that can play really good, just a defensive big that only likes playing defense. That, I mean, just to take some of that off of her, so she doesn't have to be the second level defender, the rim protector every time someone gets beat. Right? She's the last line of defense, and that's worked before. But I just think that's worn on them. Last quick thing I'll say on with this point, this is a thing too, where teams that play the longest, Vegas has played more basketball than any other team the last, 3 to 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Multiple finals appearances. Plus, as you mentioned, they have Olympians on their team. Some of their players have, they had Team US, they had the Olympics, a couple years. So they have been playing a lot of basketball between Chelsea Gray, Asia Wilson, Jackie Young, even Jewel Lloyd.
Yeah.
But obviously Chelsea, Jackie, and Asia with the finals runs together the last few years. So a little bit of fatigue, I think, has set in as well. And that's a real thing.
Yeah. So I just want to go back to the comment from Chicago Gita saying that they need to rebuild the team. So I don't think that the championship window is closed. I think,
but Marcus, it's not far from this. We're not far from this being like what needs to happen, bro. I mean, it's not. We're not far from that, I don't think.
So I don't disagree with you. I mean, I would go as far to say that. So the interesting part about expansion, just real quick, is like we're going to see this team and every other team kind of. We're going to get to see who they're prioritizing as their core and who they're not over the next 5 years, because we're going to have 4 more expansion drafts in the next 5 years, including one in 2026, assuming, of course, that there's not a lockout due to the CBA, which is a whole mess in and of itself. If the Aces front office and whoever the GM is, because they're operating in anonymity because our fan base bullied the GM out of work the last time we had one, right? If they decided in the next 5 minutes to just hit the reset button on this team and just do a complete fire sale, in my opinion, the only 2 players who shouldn't be traded are Jackie Young and Asia Wilson, and the rest is up for grabs. Now, Kirsten Bell can't be traded because of the contract that she has, but I don't disagree with you that rebuilding the team is on the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think the championship window is closed. And I say that because and it's a big if, because this isn't the only issue, right? But if Jewel Lloyd can play better, I'm not even saying like play more true to herself, because as you mentioned, the role is different, and that's a challenge to have to, work through when you're talking about a player the caliber of Jewel Lloyd, right? But if Jewel Lloyd plays better and the defense also gets better, I think this is a team that could compete for a championship this season if it's working the way that it's supposed to work out here. I would say this season. So I don't think the window is closed. But I do agree with you that the defense has been an issue. I mean, the defense was an issue in the preseason, and it's July 9th, and it's still an issue. Becky Hammond during the game had one of those in-coach interviews that I absolutely hate, and she talked about the fact that they're just not playing good pick-and-roll defense at all. Now, they at times can string stops together, but when I think about, and this goes back even to a point that you made at the end of an episode about a month or so ago, when you were talking about how it's almost like they're missing it's like they're missing a specific type of player who they sent to LA in the offseason, right? Even thinking about the way that the Aces have played basketball previously, like a good number of their points in previous seasons, and especially in their more dominating performances, came in transition. They're not getting a lot of transition opportunities because they're getting the ball out of the basket almost every possession. Like they're not getting, and the transition opportunities they do get, because they're either trying to fight, claw back into the game from behind or light a spark, they're jacking up the first 3-point look they deem marginally open or marginally appropriate, and it's a miss. There were so many times last night when Jackie Young's bringing the ball down the floor in transition, she puts up a 3, no good. Yeah. Jewel Lloyd puts a 3 up, no good. Chelsea Gray puts up a 3, no good. And it's like, so it's not just a combination of they're not playing good defense. They're also, when they are getting stops, they're not consistently capitalizing on those stops on the other end. And so it's just compounding itself. To the Asia Wilson point, and the reason why I texted you last night and said I used to pray for times like this is because I really like the Nalissa Smith thing already. It's only been 2 games.
No, she played well last night.
She played well last night.
Yeah.
She played well against Connecticut, but the Connecticut Sun are the worst team in basketball, as I predicted they would be. So I took it with a grain of salt, but she did play pretty well last night. And I do think that can be a part of it that can help. But I'm still looking at this roster, and I'm looking at the bench specifically. And like I've said this several times now, this is no disrespect to Kia Stokes or Megan Gustafson, but like, what are you doing? Surely a trade can be made where they can get moved out and you can go get yourself a Steph Dolson. I'm going to keep beating look, the trade deadline is August 8th. It's a month away. I'm going to keep bringing up the Steph Dolson point until they trade for Steph Dolson, because I think again, it's not the Candace Parker thing that you and I talked about previously. And it's not even to say that Stephanie Dawson is this, defensive stalwart that everyone should be afraid of, but she's another body down low who can play good defense and take some pressure off of Asia Wilson. And that's what you want. There was a point in time this season when Asia Wilson led this team in points, rebounds, assists, blocks, and steals on a team that has Chelsea Gray, who you and I both agree is probably, at worst, a top 3, top 5 point guard in the WNBA. A team that has Jackie Young and Jewel Lloyd, two pretty good scorers in their own right? And she was leading in every major statistical category at one point. In that Indiana Fever game, Asia Wilson was the only player to score more than 6 points in that game. More than 6. So it's not just the post. Like, the post does need some support. And I think Nalissa Smith's presence will kind of alleviate that, where you can kind of say, maybe let's shift our attention. But I'm going to go back to what I said when I initially brought up the Stephanie Dawson trade. One of these guards, I think, have to be traded. And at this point, I think one of these guards will be traded before the deadline. I don't know if they'll be able to justify, not even to the fan base. I don't know if they'll be able to justify within themselves trading away Jewel Lloyd, considering that they traded away Kelsey Plum to get her. Mm-hmm. And I'm a big fan of Jackie Young, and I don't think you should trade Jackie Young. But if we're being realistic,
in terms of value, though,
she's the most valuable guard on the team. But I'm still going to say that maybe Chelsea Gray gets traded, and maybe maybe they try to go get a guard who isn't the caliber of Chelsea Gray, but can still at the very least run this offense in a way that can allow Jackie Young to be on the ball a bit more which is what she's a little bit better at. Allow Jewel Lloyd to be on the ball a little bit more, which we all know she's one of the best on-ball, players, on-ball scorers in the league. Like, one of these 3 guards, I think, might get traded. Unfortunately, I don't want it to be Jackie Young, but you're right. She does have the best value. So if you're going to trade a guard and try to get the most back, you would trade Jackie Young. But something has to give. And the challenging part is, with the Aces, there's so much wrong with them this season that it's hard to figure out which thing they need to address first if the move is to make a trade.
Yeah, I think that you make a good point. I do. The guard room is something does have to give with the guards. I think we're looking at the guards, and I do think it starts with Jewel, and this is her first year with the team. They even talked about it on the broadcast during the game last night, how Asia and Becky, and I'm sure others too, but obviously starts at the top. They're trying to get Jewel to take more shots. Like, they're trying to get her to be. Now, here's what I will say. I'm starting to, even though it worked with, and I'm high on Kelsey Plum. I thought that, Aces fans underappreciated what she did for the makeup of that team with her play style. And I'd said when they made the move, I'm not sure they're going to be that much better or even as good just because it's Jewel Lloyd and not Kelsey Plum, even though they're both really good scorers. The style, the way that they score, I just had to see it. I wasn't sure if that was gonna suffice. I've said to you that I feel like the number one thing the Aces have needed is for Jackie Young to ascend as one of the top guards in the league. Now, she probably is that already, respectfully. The thing about trading Jackie is that she's your best defensive guard. So if you were to trade, to your point about possibly trading Chelsea Gray, just get you like a solid point guard who's younger and better on both ends, more so on defense. Probably you probably need more of a defensive point guard just so you can like get some defense back. If you were to trade Jackie, you trade because Jewel and Chelsea are not that good defensively. No. So you give away Jackie, you're really trading your best perimeter defender. Your best perimeter defender. So but it's tough. I mean, I think you're right. I think something has to give. I think it's possible maybe one of the guards get traded. I don't know if they're going to do it though. I think if they do that, it's a signal that they are blowing it up and looking to rebuild, and they're fast tracking their way towards the horizon. If they make a trade with one of those guards this season, because I don't know what kind of deal they could make that's gonna, now again, like, you might get something back that just kind of makes you a little more solid, maybe a younger, more defensive guard. Maybe that does something. But I even watching that game last night, I'm like, Jackie Young, and I guess my ultimate point is, I'm not sure if the version of Jackie Young that I think the Aces need can necessarily coexist with the version of Jewel Lloyd that we feel like the Aces need. I just don't know if it can happen, because I think both of them need to be on the ball, aggressive. Jackie's playmaking is kind of like iffy. I don't know if I always trust it as a passer, in the pick and roll game, ball in her hands, making decisions. She's not the table setter and passer that Chelsea Gray is. But I think that's the challenge. It's like you need Jackie to be that lead guard, that playmaking guard and scoring. But then you need Chelsea Gray to be Chelsea Gray, which is scoring and assisting. But then you also need Jewel Lloyd to be Jewel Lloyd, which is mainly scoring. But if Asia's scoring and if Chelsea's got reps and if Jackie got reps, that's what we're seeing right now, where Jewel's reps and her shot attempts are just not there. I will say it may help, especially Jewel, a little bit if there's some time missed with Asia not out there. I don't know if they have enough to win games. If they're playing well, they can compete in games, maybe steal a couple, but it might help just with getting Jewel a little more in rhythm, a little more acclimated, get her a little more volume. So when Asia is back, maybe specifically Jewel has a little more rhythm and confidence to her scoring the ball. But that guard thing is what they have to figure out, because it's like, man, when they were rolling a couple years ago, when they were dominant, like, and this is why I brought up, like, look, I think Chelsea, Jewel, and Jackie can play together and play well. I don't think there's like a link, a weak link in the chain, or like I think their play styles can work together. I just spent years watching Kelsey Plum and Jackie Young put it together, because I feel like Kelsey just had a unique way of being that Manu Ginobili aggressor. I'm going to go score. I'm going to go do what I do, which I know I can go on a 6-0 run, a 7-0 run by myself. And it just worked in between what Chelsea did, what Jackie did. And it just worked. There was so much rhythm to it. They had the ball popping system that Becky Hammond would talk about during that time, where we want the ball popping. That's not what they have now. It's just not the same. And so I think that does fall back on the guard room.
I'm just sitting here thinking, I'm trying to figure out like what a reasonable solution is. And this might not be reasonable, but it's possible. And again, I agree with you. I do think if one of these guards is traded, it's probably a sign that they're going to try to blow this up. And you and I talk about all the time, when it comes to like big moves like this in basketball, it usually takes a year to figure it out. And then the second year is when it comes back and it looks a little bit more like how we thought. So it's very possible that the Aces are just going to ride this out until the end, however far it takes them, which is probably not making the postseason for the first time in I don't know how long. But I'm thinking, because you and I talked about during the game, Dana Evans, I think, was our second leading scorer. She had 16 points or something like that. And I wonder if there were a scenario where the Aces were to say, you know what, let's trade one of these guards now. I wonder if the way that Dana Evans has been playing off the bench would give them maybe a little bit more comfort in the possibility of doing so, and just having her move up to the starting spot, whatever that means. That would probably mean you're trading Chelsea Gray to get her moved up into the starting lineup. But the other thing I thought about too is, and we talked about on the show when Teresa was on the show at the end here, I think they might just need to pull the trigger on Jewel Lloyd coming off the bench. And
yeah, because I don't think they ever tried it.
They haven't done that. She's been starting every game. They haven't tried it yet. That very well could be the difference between what we're seeing now and what they could look like post All-Star weekend. Because at this point, if they were to make that move, that's a move that will be made coming out of All-Star weekend, once they've taken a look at the first half of the season, figure out where they're at and see where they're trying to go. But I'm just sitting here and I'm thinking, even with that, like looking at our bench depth, like it's Dana Evans, it's Aaliyah Nye, it's Megan Gustafson, who, as far as I know, hasn't played a game all season, and it's Kia Stokes. That's not like a list of players that like makes me jump for joy. You know what I mean? And I think they all do things well. I've been a fan of Aaliyah Nye I was very excited when we drafted her. I like what she did in the preseason. She's been really good in spots over the course of the season. Like, I like that. But I'm just again going back to like the importance of a bench. I'm thinking about like what the Liberty have. I'm thinking about what Phoenix has. These are teams who have not just a bench, but they have players who, when other players go down, can easily fit into the starting lineup, and the team still functions and the team still flows. And I just think there's a precipitous drop off between the talent in our front in our starting lineup and the talent on our bench. And that's again why I'm going back to, maybe you do trade one of these guards for the sole purpose of getting something back to kind of bolster that bench. I think back to when I brought up the Chelsea Gray thing, talking about Singer to Chicago. And at first I said, you're probably want to get a point guard back from that. And the best that they have to offer is Haley Van Lith. And you probably don't want that if you're Vegas. But also Haley Van Lith, as a rookie, all she would need to do is just run the pick and roll and find the open man, and she can do that. We saw her do that in college. I don't think that would be a bad idea. I don't think they would do that, but I don't think that would be a bad idea in hindsight, right? It kind of flows things out. It gets the ball out of, she's not going to have the ball as much. It gets the ball into Jackie Young's hands a bit more. It gets the ball into Jewel Lloyd's hands a bit more. Like, there are options. I think and I think Vegas knows that there are options.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why they didn't trade for Aaliyah Edwards even is because that would be an admission that something is, they would probably have to give a little bit more for Aaliyah Edwards than they would have for Alyssa Smith, which is why I think they made the Alyssa Smith trade. I'm just trying to rationalize in my head, like, there's so much kind of not working that it's hard to pinpoint exactly what the first thing to address should be.
So the Chicago trade, remember I said to you, it was kind of, I just had a just out of the box hypothetical idea, like, what if they traded for Angel? Like, what if Angel Reese would be the kind of front court help that Asia needs? Like, again, the burden and the fatigue of having to be the leading all stat categories is great, but it's tiring. It's a burden. Like, that's something to brag about, but it's also something to be concerned about when you have one player leading all stat category. Like, that can be great, but that can also be detrimental. So with the Chicago trade, when you bring up Chelsea Gray, because look, you could get back, like, it wouldn't just be Haley Van Lith. Like, you could maybe get like Elizabeth Williams out of that. Because I don't think Chicago's giving up Angel Reese. I think Chicago would decide to really say no. I don't think they're looking to trade her. But if Chicago could get Chelsea Gray, you could offload Haley Van Lith, send Elizabeth Williams too. You might need to send one more thing, a pick or a player, because it's Chelsea Gray. Like, she did, we know Jackie Young has the highest value, but Chelsea Gray could still get you something, like a couple,
at this point in her career, she can still get you a little something.
Still get you something, and that would be great to get Chelsea Gray in there to play with Angel. We've said anyone who knows anything about basketball and have watched the Chicago Sky can easily point out the fact that they need a real point guard, like a really good point guard, to really maximize what they have with Angel and Camilla. So that would be interesting. And I mean, Elizabeth Williams, she's the type of big, like true post and big, that could also help Asia out in her own way. So I don't know. Chicago would be interesting. Chicago probably would more so want Jackie Young. Probably.
If the trade package,
I think Chelsea Gray would intrigue them.
If the package is Haley Van Lith, Elizabeth Williams, and a pick for Jackie Young, the Aces would say no.
Yeah, they're not doing that.
They would not do that.
You're definitely not.
You would need. It
would have to be more.
You would need Angel or Camilla back if we're going to give you Jackie Young. Again, nothing's probably going to happen. I can sit here and I can throw trade packages and potential trade proposals at the wall all I want. I just know that at some point, these are great players, and I think they'll figure out a way to make it work. Whether that means Jewel coming off the bench, whether that means making a trade, but I'm still looking at just a scenario where, in all likelihood, the version of the Aces we see at the end of this season, I think, and I'm hoping, will pale in comparison to the version of the Aces that we see next year. I think they'll be able to actually figure it out, and I think things would be better next year. But the only downside to that is when you look at the landscape of the WNBA right now, like, obviously you have New York and Minnesota. Atlanta's not going anywhere, it seems. Right? Phoenix isn't going anywhere, it would seem. You and I talk about how you can't be afraid of everyone should be afraid of Seattle because they're not afraid of anybody. We know that Indiana's not going anywhere. Like, so so what I will say is about the window closing, I don't think it's closed yet, but I will agree that it's closing because the WNBA is catching up talent-wise, and it's just going to be more competitive. It's not going to be, as easy of a road. Not to say that the previous roads were easy. I mean, we had some absolute barn burners of series to win these championships, but the path is going to get a little bit more treacherous as the years go on, as more teams are added, and as players continue to get better, and as more talent that's not in the WNBA right now joins the WNBA in the next 3, 4, 5 years. So I don't want to do like the LeBron thing and say as long as you have A'ja Wilson, your window is never closed. But what I will say is as long as A'ja Wilson's in her prime, I don't think your window's ever closed. But she can't be backpacking a team of 4 Olympians all the time. Like they have to do their fair share.
Right. It's going to be interesting what they might do to change up their look, because it's been like they've had 3 really good guards and A'ja, right? They lucked up on, they run the lottery with Candace Parker. There's not another Candace Parker out there, but they're going to have to change. They're going to have to, really change things up. Like, and I wonder what that looks like. Do they try to do a new version of kind of like a super team? Do they get really aggressive and try to get another like superstar in there right now? Do they make a trade? Do they go for depth? Do they try to get younger? Like, what are they going to do to keep, try to keep the window open while Asia's in their prime? I will say this. I do think that in terms of like, when we talk about them, figuring it out, which unless you can tell me how that's going to happen, I can't, that you're just relying on faith, with which faith is great. But, in the world of basketball, you need tangible, evidence and examples of how that faith is going to manifest. But, I do think what could help them is the fact that, like we talked about, New York being vulnerable. No Jonquel last night. I was really looking forward to seeing how Vegas was going to do last night with Jonquel not out there. And it was a better game. Like, I mean, and look, no Natasha Cloud either. So that was kind of discouraging to be like, wow, this is a game, but New York is literally down 2 starters and they're still like, this is a really good game right now. So that doesn't look great for Vegas, that it was a really good game. Vegas has all their players.
Natasha Cloud and
you're down 2 starters. Like, I'm like, geez, that's not very encouraging. But
we got ran out of Barclays Center. They were healthy.
Probably. I mean, maybe you were right about it being a beatdown if they were fully healthy. I mean, maybe, I guess. But I will say, like, the league is, it feels like it, specifically because we talked about, Jonquel being out, I think makes the Liberty a little vulnerable. They're still a very good team, but they're not like head and shoulders better than everybody else without Jonquel. She's the main and now we know that for sure. Like, she's who makes them like unfair. She takes them to that unfair level. Minnesota, they got Fee back. She was kind of out with the back injury for a little bit, but even Minnesota, it's like New York and Minnesota are the 2 best teams, but New York without Jonquel and Minnesota as constructed, it's not like they're unbeatable, right? So when you talk about Vegas in the mix, like, if they're in the mix, if they, obviously they got to get in the playoffs, but like if they can be in the mix, even in a first round matchup, like if they have to play New York or Minnesota, you're not counting them out. They still have who they have. You can't, but there has to be a pretty drastic turnaround here, especially on the defensive end, but on both ends, honestly. There would have to be a serious turnaround for us to be looking at a playoff series where it's like Vegas against New York or Minnesota in the first round, or against Seattle in the first round. And we're like, okay, this is going to be a series. Like, Vegas, like, don't count Vegas out. But man, these other teams are just, they just look tougher. They look hungrier. Yeah, I agree. I don't think people would want to play the Aces in the playoffs, but we've got to see some kind of transition, or we got to see something change between now and the playoffs. Otherwise, they're not going to intimidate anybody in the playoffs. They just look not great.
Last thing I'll say is, as it stands right now, the Lynx are 17-2, the Liberty 13-6, as are the Mercury, the Dream, and the Storm are 12-7. The Fever and the Valkyries are 9-9. The Aces would be the 8th seed in the playoffs because we've beaten the Mystics earlier in the year. We both have the same record, 9-10, which means that we would have a lovely date with the Minnesota Lynx in the first round of the playoffs. So,
I mean, hey, it's great for TV. Like, A'ja and Fee, the 2 top players.
And as I told you, Fee plays well that series and they crush the Aces, which they probably would. I think people would more universally acknowledge Fee as the best player in the world if that were the case.
That would seal it. That would probably seal it. I think you're right. I think I think optically that would make it a little more official.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how things shake up. It is always a pleasure to talk women's basketball, no matter the time, no matter the day, with my guy, Martin Sories. Oops. If you are not already, please make sure that you are subscribed to Basketball Society on YouTube so you don't miss any other basketball content from Protect Our Queens or from Martin Sories. And then when you're done there, head over to Instagram, Threads, and Twitter and follow us over there. On Instagram and Threads at Protect Our Queens _, on Twitter at PO Queens _. So for my guy, Martin Sories of Basketball Society, this is Marcus of the Protect Our Queens podcast signing off. Thank you guys for watching. And as always,
good to see you guys in the comments.
Always good to see you guys.
What up, Ace, AT, Bryce,
guys.
Cheetah, Ghost? If you're in there, ghosting. You pissed me off last week, but it's all love. It's all love, man.
What a great dialogue that was at the end of the show last week, man. It is always a pleasure. People. It is always a pleasure. We appreciate you guys for tapping in with us. Make sure that you are subscribed and followed up on all the platforms so you don't miss the next time we're here. The next time we do have a show, we will be talking about the always fun topic: is Paige Beckers better than Caitlin Clark? That will be.
Are we doing that next time we're on? Are we doing
that? That will be the topic conversation the next time we're on, and I cannot wait. I've been stalling a bit because I want to make sure I've got my ammunition.
Say it one more time, Marcus. Let them, the people who are still here, let them say it one more time.
If you're still here, I want you guys to know that the next time that Martin and I are live on your phone, camera, TV, however you watch Protect Our Queens, we will be talking about whether or not Paige Beckers is already better than Caitlin Clark. So you don't want to miss it.
Oh my.
Bryce Smith, you are absolutely correct, my brother. So thank you guys for watching. And as always, you enjoy yourselves some women's basketball.